He was so welcoming when I was, chosen. I just still remember the feeling of going out into the hall after I had won, and his embracing me, and I just felt that it was such an enormous honor to be in an orchestra with this great musician. What stays with me is that every concert was a life or death experience, that everything was so important, so musically important, and that Slava's expectations were so high. And we all felt that we had to live up to those expectations. It wasn't fear, it was exhilaration, and that I've got to be able to figure out how to do this to satisfy whatever he wanted. That at one point, one of the cellists or violinists was very nervous and the bow was shaking, and he said, the only chance that we have to practice when we're nervous is when we're in front of an audience. And so you have to take these moments as a learning experience as well as a performing experience, so that you try things when you're nervous that you can't do at home. So he said, when I get nervous, I just drop my arm, and it stops the bow from shaking. And so I took this took this to heart as, how do you figure out what you have to do in a performance? And that was such a valuable piece of advice, that you acknowledge your terror or your fear or whatever it is, but you use it to learn something. But we had this searing quality that we would get at times, and where it sounded like a scream from the other world, and it was an amazing experience, and you felt like you were traveling with a hero, with a rock star, but also with a world figure that was bigger than life, and yet we knew him so well. We knew parts of him, but since he had to always talk to us in a halting English, I don't think we realized what a poet he was with language. So he valued the people in the orchestra. You felt that when he spoke to you, especially off stage, that it was a personal connection, and that he was getting something from that connection. It wasn't just that you were getting his personality, but he wanted to know you. He wanted to experience, to understand you. He felt that there was something personal in the sound that you made, that it was that you were making it partly for him, and we were playing for him and trying to live up to the expectations that he had, that he wanted a certain something in the music, and you had to figure out how to do it. But he cared about your family. I think that he felt if you were happy and appreciated, that you would play better, I guess. To come here, the center of the political life in a democracy, a capitalist society, it seemed like such an enormous change, and it was for him. But he embraced it. I mean, it was like you did feel that politics didn't matter, in the sense that music was such a universal language, and that so his embracing of the musicians and feeling like we were his children and we were his, form of expression was huge, because we felt that the world had shrunk, in a sense, that there wasn't so much difference between countries. Every concert, no matter where it was, whether it was in Alaska or in the Musikverein in Vienna, they were both important, and every concert was a significant event for him. It wasn't just this is not an important place, so we'll just relax. No, it was realizing that this was, at that moment, that is what you wanted to be doing in your life. I think that was one of the unique things about him. It wasn't that he was, revered and remote and put on a pedestal. We did put him on a pedestal, but he was very real to us, and he threw wonderful parties. He always had a celebration on tour. We always had a great time, and he wanted to feel like you could let your hair down and just have a great time. It wasn't just a me kind of thing. And when he took his bows, or when the orchestra had bows, he had everybody stand. I mean, it took 15 minutes to finish a concert, because every section, every soloist stood, every section stood, and the bows were theatrical, and I think he wanted to have that feeling of excitement in the orchestra, and it used to build and build as for the applause, and it wasn't for himself. It was for the music too. He used to hold up the score of the Shostakovich Symphony and kind of pat it to show that was what was really important. He did show his sadness and his angst. I guess I think of the Russia tour, where people were wanting a piece of him. It was as he was torn here and there. People wanted to touch him, to greet him, to embrace him, and I'm sure he was exhausted through that whole tour. There are moments you'd see him, just overwhelmed, and I remember his playing the Dvorak cello concerto. That is one of the most significant moments in my whole orchestra career. I just still cry when I think about it, because it was just such amazing playing and thinking of him in his homeland, and having had to leave, and here was his comfort zone, whether or not he had moments of horror there too, but I mean, to have to leave your country and then to return and feel like you were exonerated and to feel the love of all these people, but to come and play like you've never heard anything like that, and it was just amazing. He would bribe his friends, from other orchestras, great conductors, to come and, I will play for you if you come and conduct my orchestra. And I think he felt that we would grow from that. He wasn't afraid of the competition. He didn't view it that way. He viewed it, I think, as come and help my orchestra grow and get better. I think he made friends, and he needed friends, and he wanted to feel that he was loved. Even there would be moments when he'd be angry at someone. They made a mistake in a concert, or they didn't do what he wanted, but he wanted to feel that he could change you, mold you, and make the music. The music was primary, but I do think that he needed people. He needed to embrace life in every way. I think it was the force of his personality, not the stick that was important. It was the drive. I mean, the pacing, the energy, and the repose. Sometimes the stillness of him in drawing out something that you thought, oh, I can't possibly hold a note this long, but then you had to, and you did it because that was what he wanted, and that was what was needed. I so need this, So the moment in in Alaska on our first residency when Slava got up on the stage with the native drummers, and started drumming with him. I mean, he was not afraid to look ridiculous or to feel, to do something that was totally out of his element. He wanted to experience whatever he could. I mean, it made everybody else kind of feel like, you got to just try things in life. Don't be so scared. He wanted, extremes in the orchestra. He wasn't afraid of having things too loud, and certainly wanted to find sounds that were expressive of the composer. He didn't want it to just be ho-hum, play to a middle ground. There was very little just middle ground. There had to be something searing or something eerie or some expressing some emotion. And I think that was what was unique about us. But also, I think about these glorious days that we had making music around the world, here and around the world, but feeling like it was so vital to our existence and the community, that this was something that had to be said, that we had to play this music, that people had to hear it, and that force that he had, that wanting to share what he knew about music. Well, I do remember when my father died, and I actually, the orchestra was playing in Boston, and I had to fly up late and I got there for the second half of the concert, and he called me in and talked about his father and how much he meant to him. And it was such a warm personal thing to reach out at a difficult moment and tell me how much he appreciated the fact that I made the effort to come and play on the tour, that it was important to him that I had done that. So.